Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 747. I had the white pieces and started with d4. My opponent went knight f6. I go c4, the normal move, and then my opponent goes e5, the Budapest gambit. You can see that's down on the list of possible replies at this point, but well, it's still played fairly often, and it leads to some kind of interesting play, although technically white is better after this, so you don't see it so often at the top levels. Anyway, taking the pawn is pretty much the only reply for white. Basically, any other move allows black to equalize immediately. So might as well grab that pawn. And then he can go to g4 or to e4. Knight g4 is the better move according to the chess engine and the more common move. But knight e4 also has some interesting tactical points to it. And now white has a couple choices here on how to defend. The main moves here are bishop f4 and knight to f3. It makes sense to defend that pawn for a little bit and force black to waste some time trying to round it up. But in most cases, he gets that pawn back. But in the bishop f4 line, there's actually, it's possible to hold on to that pawn, although you do suffer some pawn damage typically. Anyway, so I think I play the simpler line, knight f3. Gives the pawn back a little bit more easily, but white gets good development and has places for his pieces. So bishop c5 is a natural follow-on, coordinating on the f2 square, so you have to block that with e3. So black has sort of provoked e3 and shut in the dark squared bishop there. And now knight c6. So black has got some good development, and white normally replies here with a developing move like bishop e2 or knight c3. But, well, a3 is a good move too. I checked this with a chess engine, and it has two ideas. One is to allow the knight to come to c3 without getting pinned, and the second idea is to prepare b4, kicking the bishop back. And so a5 is the move that's played immediately to stop this b4 idea. I could follow up with b3 and bishop b2, but I decided to get the knight out first. And then now at this point, black decides to get the pawn back, so he takes. And you almost always take that knight off, getting rid of one of black's developed pieces, and the other knight can be chased away from the center at some point with the move f4. And you know, I always have a little trouble playing that f4 move because it seems to leave a weakness here, but it's often a good idea to play that, so something to keep in mind. Anyway, I played bishop e2, which is also a good move. I looked at that with the chess engine. This keeps an advantage to white. So both sides castle. And then he played rook a6. So we're out of the opening book at this point. But this is a typical idea, to lift the rook. And notice that that sixth rank is completely empty. So the rook is swinging across to join in to the attack. And that's the idea, one of the ideas with the Budapest gambit. And one of the reasons why it's kind of a dangerous gambit to deal with if you're not familiar with it, because there are these unique attacking lines in the Budapest gambit. Let's see. I played knight d5 here with the idea of bringing my knight over to the king side. Maybe I should have gone like this, knight that way, if I wanted to bring the knight in, because the knight, well, we'll see what happens to the knight later. It doesn't end up on a stable square. But, well, technically it's still all right. The chess engine prefers rook b1 here, which I think is also an interesting idea. If black swings the rook over immediately, you can play e4 here, force the rook to move again, and then play b4, and the rook is in position to support that pawn and kick the bishop back. And it seems like white is okay here. Anyway, I went with this knight d5 idea, just getting my knight to a good position, hopefully, and then if it gets chased away from there, I can take it over to the king side, also with the idea of supporting b4. Let's see, he played rook to h6, and so I went b4. And he throws in, he doesn't respond to this threat to his bishop immediately, but he throws in queen h4, and that's a mate threat, so I have to deal with that. And then he played d6, opening up this line for the bishop and threatening to sacrifice on h3. And I guess I believed it. I thought it was too much of a threat to allow me to take his bishop. But the chess engine is fearless here. It says you should go ahead and take the bishop. So if you want to think about this position for a while, why don't you see if you can figure out how white will survive that attack after bishop takes h3. Say pawn takes bishop and bishop takes h3. What does white play then? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. If you take and he sacrifices, which is the best move here, you have the move g3, and I think this is the move I didn't see. There's no, and I've opened up the h-file, which I didn't want to do, but this chases the queen off the h-file. The queen has no squares over here and has to retreat somewhere, and that buys enough time for white to organize a defense here, at least according to the chess engine. I still find this position kind of scary, but technically speaking, white is just winning here. So I guess you should learn to defend these crazy positions. Grab those pieces. Anyway, I didn't really spot that g3 idea, or the idea that he would actually be chased off the h-file. It looked too dangerous to me to allow the opening the h-file. And also after bishop takes h3, if you take the bishop, you lose immediately. So it is a dangerous position. Let's see, knight f4 is what I played in this position. After d6, I'm opening up that line for the bishop. I bring the knight to f4. And so it is over here defending the king side, which is, one of the ideas I had in developing the knight to d5. The problem is that it's not stable on that square. It can be chased away at any time by the move g5. So this is no longer a position where white is better. It's actually about even. White can defend this, but this combination of knight d5 and knight f4 allows, and the fact that I didn't take his bishop, this allows black to equalize here. So now he takes the pawn. He deals with the threat to his bishop. And, well, I didn't take back right away. I kicked his queen first with g3. The queen dropped back, and then I took. And, well, my knight's no longer here, so he's winning a pawn there. He takes it. And then I played king g2, just so I could bring my rook over and defend. Actually, the best way to defend that h-pawn is rook to a8. It's kind of a clever technique. This pawn is under fire from the rook and the bishop, but the rook here pins the bishop, at least for the moment, and it buys me a little bit of time. And if he tries g5 here, then I can safely move my knight back. It's interesting. I guess if the rook takes, yeah, I don't quite understand this. Oh, I get it. There's a threat. There's a threat of rook takes bishop followed by knight to e7, so that's why knight d5 works in that case. So anyway, tricky stuff here, and that's the best defense, and that keeps it equal. After king g2, then black starts to get the advantage here, and his best play is the immediate g5. He hits on the g5 idea in a little bit, and I let him repeat that position, but well, he plays this move first, which is not quite accurate, and I had the chance to do something here. I could have played h4, and that's a move I was reluctant to play because it gives up the g4 square potentially, although I have it covered at the moment. Let's see if he goes g5, and also, yeah, I was worried about him playing g5 to immediately open things up, but this position I can defend with rook to h1. Still looks kind of scary, but chess engine says I'm doing okay here. So anyway, I played rook b1 and give him a second chance to play his g5 move, and now he gets it, and we see the position in the game that he could have had earlier. The knight has to go to h5 pretty much. It's defended, by the bishop and queen there, and it's blocking the rook from attacking and coordinating with the bishop on the h3 square. So it's, holding things together for the moment. And then he just needs to bring the queen in with a move like queen to d7, coming out to f4 perhaps, maybe pushing the pawns forward. Anyway, this is a winning attack here. He actually makes a mistake here with the bishop to e6, but I don't exploit it. So if you want to think about this position for a while, see if you can find a way for white to exploit that position of the bishop there. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. Pause the video if you want time to think about it. f4. Something I thought about, although it's kind of a weakening move, but there's a tactical point here. If he takes right away, I guess he could move the knight, but then you've kind of gained something by, and you're also just threatening to take the pawn. So that would be good if he just moves. So he takes, take, and now the knight has to move, and wherever the knight goes, it walks into this pawn push. Even if the knight had gone somewhere else, the pawn push is a double attack on the rook and the bishop. So white's going to win some material on this line, and that's just actually knight g6 was the best place to go, oddly enough. So anyway, that's the tactic I missed there. He played bishop e6. I missed that and played queen c2, and now, you know, once again he's got a winning attack here. He continues with queen to d7 lining up behind his bishop. It was probably the idea of the bishop e6 move was to reorganize. It's just that it was unfortunately placed for that one moment. Play rook h1, defending the h-pawn there, and he pushes with f5, getting his pawns into the attack. Play bishop b2. When your opponent's pawns come forward around their king, look for these weaknesses behind the pawns and look for counterplay that way. And now he has a winning attack here. The best way is to continue with queen c6 check. He plays this check later, but it's much more effective right here. Drive the king back and then push on with f4 and bust things up along this diagonal. After e takes, it also opens up a square for his bishop, and he wins the exchange. So he's winning some material here, and he's also continuing the attack. He's got a great position here, so that's just winning. He tried g4. I guess this looks like a tempting move. You know, it's threatening to open up some lines over here on the king side, and it unprotects my knight. You know, it's a move that comes with a tempo. But knight going to f4 is a pretty good response. It blocks up the other pawn, the f pawn, and the h pawn here is well defended. So taking doesn't really accomplish anything but open up some squares for my bishop. So he tried knight f3 here, and knight f3 is actually a losing move. Kind of funny how this game has swung back and forth. So he went from winning to losing in two moves, g4 and knight f3. But I had to find the winning idea here, and I didn't actually play the best way. So another chance for you to find a good move for white in this position. Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. This is kind of complicated, but it's interesting. If you take here, okay, it undermines the knight, and the rook is loose. So you're threatening two pieces. He's got to do something. He takes. That's probably the best response. You take back, and now this knight is still hanging. And if you defend it in the most natural way by playing f takes g4, this is the really clever part. The queen is now overworked. The queen is defending this pawn because suddenly those exchanges have opened up an attack on h7. And at the same time, the queen is defending the bishop, which is under attack from the knight. So you can just take that knight. Now the chess engine finds a clever way to save things. It sacrifices this knight. You can take the bishop here is what I meant to say. It sacrifices this knight, forking the king and queen, dragging the rook away, and then the queen takes the knight. So what's happened here? Yeah, white's a piece up though after the end of all of that. So that is just winning. So after let's see, after rook takes h1, rook takes h1, there's a threat of knight takes e6. He needs to deal with that, and so knight to e5 is the recommended move. This well, it deals with it because it doesn't open up this diagonal, so there's no longer the threat on h7. So after knight takes e6, queen takes e6, and then let's see, I can lift my rook to h5. But this is you know, this is just a good position for white. Count the pieces. The pieces are even. I think I have an extra pawn at this point, and you know, white's attack has been. Black's attack on white has been beaten back, so that would be winning for white. Anyway, let's see. He played knight f3. I just took it. and then he took back with the pawn. And then my best move apparently is king h2, still with some advantage to white. King f3, and this is actually just a draw at this point. He played queen c6 and went king e2, and then he resigned. So it was funny. I was careful to look at this with the chess engine to see if he resigned for any serious reason, but the chess engine rates this as about even. I mean, it's true he's weakened his king here and have ideas to lift my queen and threaten, but you know, the material is even, and he's got threats on my king too, and you know, maybe he can prove that my king is somewhat exposed in the center of the board. Anyway, it could be something else came up, but in any case, he resigned at this point, and that's how the game ended. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting struggle. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you again soon.